Hello, this is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show, and on today's show, we're going to cover one of the more conservative areas of Greater Houston, our northern county, Montgomery County.
Correct.
Yeah, and we have the county judge, Mark Keough.
Keough.
Mark Keough. Mark Keough, the Montgomery County judge. On how are you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Things are good.
I'm really interested. You know, we've spent on this show, we cover Harris County, we cover Fort Bend County, we cover them, to a fault almost. And so it's nice to get a new county's perspective. Montgomery County borders northern Harris County and has cities in it, the Woodlands and Conroe. Am I right on that?
That's right, yeah. Yeah, the Woodlands is right over the border.
Yeah.
Certainly got Conroe, Magnolia.
Yep. And the farther north you go in the Greater Houston area, the more conservative it gets, I think.
I think you're exactly right. And we've experienced that in Montgomery County for sure.
So that's why I think this conversation is going to be interesting, very dynamic, because down here in Fort Bend County, we are semi-left. In Harris County, we're hard left. So we're always fighting that dynamic. You know, we're always here trying to push our arguments for conservatism, for constitutionalism, a pro-Texas, pro-American perspective, to fight back against the communists. And man, it's frustrating. So it's a breath of fresh air to have somebody on the show that lives in the land of the land of good ideas and good values.
I tell you, it's the greatest thing I've ever done to be able to be the county judge. You know, most people don't realize what the county judge actually does. 254 counties in the state of Texas. Every one of them has a county judge. Every one of them has 4 precincts, north, south, east, and west, 4 different commissioners.
If we may say, a judge is not a judge. Can you just give that little explanation, please? Because
right.
I got a lot of people from Ohio watching this show, and it throws them off when you say judge. Go ahead, please.
What I essentially am is a CEO. I'm the chief presiding officer over Commissioners Court. This is my job responsibility. We determine the agenda. We do Commissioners Courts where the commissioners, all 4 commissioners, and me, get together on a biweekly basis, make decisions on behalf of the county, make all the financial decisions that have to do with roads, bridges, whatever the case may be, how we spend money. But I'm also in charge by statute of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. I have had the opportunity to be the chairman of the health district. I do a lot of different things as county judge. I'm even over the animal shelter. I've chosen to be over that in Montgomery County just because they need help, and I'll step in wherever I can. But I'm one of 5 votes. I can't make the decision. I'm not the king. We are clearly a republic. And sometimes we get into arguments in court, and we'll remind each other afterwards when they're walking down the hall, and the tendency is to want to hold a grudge because you got voted down. I remember saying to one of the commissioners, man, don't forget, this is a republic. You just saw it at work. Open exchange, transparency in ideas. You vote, you win, you lose, let's get on with life. This is what I do as the county judge. I'm the chief administrator of the county.
I interrupted you. You were telling us about Montgomery County. Please tell us more about Montgomery County.
Well, Montgomery County I say it's the reddest county in the reddest state in the United States. We are so conservative, and I think it's demonstrated in how we view things. It's demonstrated how we view law enforcement, and how we view taxation, how we view our annual budget, how we view the people, how we view life, how we view the sanctity of life, and how we view helping those who can't help themselves in a balanced and right way. This is who we are as people, and I think following COVID and the focus on these things is what has really moved us into one of the fastest growing counties in the country. And I remember in COVID, we were sitting right around 600,000 in the U.S. Census Bureau. Now, according to their estimates, over 750,000. So people are moving here from other areas all the time. And they're moving here because we're conservative. I just had a telephone conversation with Justin. He heard it. The individual is amazing. He had contacted me, and he made a contribution to my campaign. I couldn't believe it, so I called him. And, he said to me, he says, I just want you to know we are here. We came here from California. We checked out. We wanted to find the best place to live, and we found it was Montgomery County. And no joke, you can't make this stuff up. They said, we heard about you and your position and your leadership, and that's why we're here, and we want to support you. It was amazing.
So one of the things that I, sort of get somewhat emotional about is that, we have these historic Texas country towns, Montgomery County and towns like that.
Yeah.
And they are, they're old farm towns. And we see with this growth, new challenges, new issues, and sometimes it changes the culture and the ideas, the values of that town. And I always want to go back, right? I like watching old westerns and things like that, so I always want to go back. But my question for you is, what is the challenge? What are the issues that come with an old Texas country town that now has hypergrowth?
Leadership is everything. I am telling you, Chris, my commissioners, guys that I work with, are not my commissioners, the commissioners of our county. I know this for me. We wake up every day and are thinking about how do we keep what we have. When you have the tentacles of crime that are creeping into Montgomery County from Harris County, when we have exorbitant taxes that are taking place in various counties around us, and you have to fight for these things that are of value, and you've got to be willing to talk about these things, and we do. So this is a big deal, and it can be maintained. But like Ronald Reagan said, going the opposite direction, you're just one generation away. Within 10 years, for sure, you could lose all this. So you have to be diligent. You got to fight for it every single day. People need to know why we're a safe environment and how do we keep a safe environment.
Is the county, as it grows, what I see in Fort Bend County that I'm somewhat find myself opposing, is they have this big county perspective where their argument in Fort Bend now is that Dallas has Fort Worth, so Harris has to have Fort Bend. And they have all this justification, therefore, people shouldn't have to drive into Harris and all of this, that, and the other. But the people of Fort Bend, I don't see them, having that same opinion. They don't want hypergrowth. They're sort of pushing back against it. And so my question is, in Montgomery County, are you faced with that same challenge? Is the county commissioner's court fascinated with the idea of being a big county? I mean, tell me.
Not at all.
I mean, because I like growth. Everybody likes growth.
Sure.
And it's a balancing act. And I'm not coming hard on this one, but I like growth. Everybody does. But at the same time, when you hear the people of Fort Bend saying they don't like it quite as much as the commissioners do, but what's your perspective there?
My perspective, and what I believe our guys believe, is that we would like to see growth absolutely slowed down. Growth is expensive, and the result of which is we live in a personal property state. People buy property. If developers want to develop, they have every right constitutionally to develop that. The real question is, why are people coming here? I can tell you why they're coming here. Low taxes, safe environment, family environment of virtue. These are things that are drawing people here. And so if they're going to move here and they're coming here either way, well, the best thing we can do is figure out a way to manage that. And that has to come through very proactive activity in terms of your transportation and various things like that.
Yeah, because if you look at where I really find the model community for the world, for the country, is Sandy Springs, Georgia, and they're Ron Paul-esque, right? They are libertarian, and they had a time when they were big government and all this stuff. They just whacked it. They got rid of all of it,
right,
and they just got down to the essentials. And I see that model versus the Fort Bend County model, where Fort Bend County wants to build epicenters and ballparks and all of these expansive projects. And I see that while I see it took them forever and a day to pay off the Astrodome in Harris County. And so I don't believe in Fort Bend when they go for these expansive projects and they're tearing up the farmland. I don't believe that they have any concern over the long-term debt of the county. What about Montgomery County? I mean,
absolutely, it's a constant topic of consideration.
Mm-hmm.
We just defeased $150 million worth of debt. We didn't throw it into more years, but we were able to lower the rate and bring back into the county X million dollars as a result of defeasing that debt. Since I have been in office, we have lowered the tax rate over 20%. 20%. And we, until this last bond that we did for $480 million, we had cut our debt and indebtedness in half. We're not interested in creating debt. People don't want more debt because it just creates more taxes. But the way you're able to, but you have to do, if you're going to grow and you're going to grow sensibly, you're going to have to keep your taxes in line where people aren't constantly seeing an increase in their tax rate while they're trying to put in roads and all the rest. We just did a $480 million bond, no joke, $120 million for each precinct to go over the next few years. We did not increase the tax rate 1 cent, no increase in rate. We were able to do that because of other things that we do well, and the defeasing of debt, and taking some stuff away here and moving here. So we're very committed plus we are a top-rated bond company, AAA rated bond company. Our stuff sells immediately as soon as we put it up, but again, we just don't arbitrarily put stuff out. We don't do infrastructure bonds and all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's an incredible achievement. I mean, a $480 million bond, that's considerable. I want to talk about that in a minute, but $480 million bond, and do I understand you say you did not increase debt? Is that correct?
We didn't. No, we increased debt. You can't help it.
Right,
$480
right.
million, but we did not increase the tax rate.
I'm sorry, taxes. What I
In
meant
other
to
words,
say.
the tax rate is not reflected in that. Mm-hmm. And that
So in other words,
that
you
was
can
pretty
cover
remarkable.
you can cover the principal with the existing tax base.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, in Fort Bend, they did a I think it was double that.
Here's the deal. They don't even try.
Yeah.
I mean, the city of Conroe doesn't even try. They go up to the max rate, And the fact of the matter is that when I made a contract with Montgomery County in 2019 when I took office, and in that I said, in terms of taxes, we will never increase taxes beyond population plus inflation. Okay, and as your appraisals go up, we will compensate for that increase in appraisal by dropping the rate. We have done that consistently since I've been in office.
Okay, real quick. You say you dropped the taxes in Montgomery County?
We dropped the tax rate to compensate for the increase in the appraisals. Yeah, that's called the no new revenue rate. We've been at the no new revenue rate. It's the first time in the history of our county. I got a telephone call from Barb Sadler. He was 5 times the county judge, and we did our first budget, and we came in at the no new revenue rate, the essential tax rate. He called me and he says, Judge Keough, he said, we've never, ever done that in the history of this county, ever. It's a first. We did 3 budget cycles, then we bounced up to the de minimis, thank you to their new rate that they put up. But nonetheless, we came in under the middle rate this time, and we did not increase tax rate this time again. So it's pretty remarkable what we've been able to do, even though our appraisals are going up so quickly.
That's incredible. That? Yeah. Let me take 1 minute to talk about our featured product, which is the X39 patch. Hope we can get it on the screen. The X39, and this patch is incredible. This is photolight therapy. Photolight therapy is the new emerging technology, and the X39 patch is the record breaker in photolight therapy. And what it is, it's a small patch that you place on your skin, and what it does, it directs light into your body that triggers a peptide that stimulates your stem cells. And stem cells are the essence of life, the essence of youth. You always hear about people getting stem cell injections. It's a very, very controversial thing that they do, where they pull stem cells out of babies and put them into people. That's really gross. That is not this. This is stem cell regeneration. So every decade that passes, your stem cells become suppressed. And what this does, it reactivates them, and the results are incredible. So just to give you a couple of ideas, as for myself, I was having energy crashes. I was having to take power naps, getting sleepy behind the wheel. All of that is gone because of the X39 patch. After 40, right, us men, we feel that pressure on our bladder. We always have to go to the bathroom. We have to pee constantly. With the X39 patch, that's gone away from me. It's incredible. It was like a prison sentence before. My good friend David in Fort Worth, he was getting patches in his eyes. He began taking the X39 patch, and the patches went away. His wife fell in the shower, hit her head, and had 10 years of incessant headaches. After 2 days on the X39 patch, the headaches go away. One last story. My friend is a PTSD war veteran. He's dealing with all those issues that come with war, and he requires heavy meds to sleep at night. He takes the X39 patch, that goes away. The results are remarkable. This is the fastest growing company in the world, 2 years in a row. because the product is remarkable. It is the X39 patch. And to learn more, text the word Patriot to 330-606-2304, and the order link will be sent to you. Thank you very much. Okay. So this is an amazing accomplishment. While this I want the people of the world, Texas, to know this. I have yet to come across a county government, any government of any sort. They see the raising rate, the cost of homes going up as a reason to get more taxes out of you. And what they did in Montgomery County is while our homes are going up in value, Montgomery County compensated that. Explain it again one more time.
As your appraisals have gone up in value, we dropped the rate to compensate for the difference. And in our first 3 years, or actually our first 4 years, we were able to really accomplish that. We added a bunch of new law enforcement because of safety, so we went up to the middle rate, just a little above it in the previous budget cycle. This last budget cycle, we came back down. We actually lowered the rate this last round. And yet we're being told by the state of Texas that the counties are spending too much money, and that's why we're where we're at. No, it's because the appraisals are increasing in value so rapidly that giving exemptions is not going to outrun the increase in the appraisals. You have to have appraisal reform. And that's what I fought for that in the House of Representatives when I was there. Couldn't even touch it and couldn't get it listened to, and they still can't. Cecil Bell, Will Metcalf, both have presented this very same thing in our area. But again, we are compensating it in county taxes. They're working on some stuff right now. I know the lieutenant governor's working on some stuff for school exemption and whatnot, which kudos. Anything they can do to help us with taxes, I will always vote in favor of that. I think there's some better ways to do it.
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, why is your story not being told on every news outlet in the state of Texas? It's just, that's an amazing accomplishment.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
So the $480 million bond, can you talk about what was the support within the county for that bond, and what sort of things did it go towards?
Well, the first thing is we met with our bond counsel, and typically in a May bond, you can either do them in the fall or in May. In May, bonds generally fail. But we had not had a road bond since 2015. We knew that we were primed to be able to do that. And so we had each of the commissioners turn into us and to our comptroller, to our budget office, and also to our comptroller, auditor, the projects that they wanted to do and what this would add up to. And my goal is, look, we cannot raise the tax rate. So whatever it comes out to, we cannot raise the tax rate. We're not going to. I'd fight that. And so sure enough, we did not raise the tax rate, and we were able to come up with $480 million. And we had not had one since 2015, so we desperately needed this money to work on these roads to benefit the people. And so that's what we've done. And we divided that. It's in 4 tranches of money, $120 million each for the next 4 years. Then hopefully at the end of that time, given our experience of growth and the influx of people and influx of additional tax revenue and other revenues, we'll have the opportunity to have another bond and be able to have a bond to increase our transportation every 4, maybe every 3, every 4, maybe every 5 years. We've not done that in the past. It's been so painful to deal with.
So the bonds are projected to go into roads.
Correct. That's right. This is a road bond. This is not any infrastructure. We're not building buildings or any of that kind of stuff. That's a whole nother topic in itself.
So essentially what you're doing in Montgomery County is the roads are going to be drivable, not like what we have in Harris.
Well, yes, they are, but Chris, the amount of time it takes to do this is just mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. By the time we decide to do a road, it's probably 6, 7, 8 years before it gets done. By the time you do, whether it's eminent domain, where you've got to or the purchasing of properties, where the environmental takes so long, it's just unbelievable. But we are on our way to turn this thing around. We had shovel-ready projects ready to go. Charlie Riley has done a great job at this. Matt Gray, all of our guys have, but Matt Gray in East County, Charlie Riley over in West County in Precinct 2. These guys, they're in the middle of working their roads. They're in the middle of making it happen, and you wouldn't believe the amount of things that are taking place as a result. We have a great commissioners court working so well together, stable government.
Okay, so in Harris County, we have a large issue with bail bond reform, where essentially in Harris County, criminals are let out with just a small payment or no payment at all. and they're put back on the streets. And so as a result of that, crime is expanding in Harris County. And that's right there on your southern border. Is that crime coming into Montgomery County?
Yes, it certainly is. But it's more than just bail reform. It is an ideology. There's an ideological difference. I did a deal with 5 developers with a group called Biz Now. It was in the Anadarko building a couple of years ago, and there was probably 200 plus political subdivisions, politicians, developers, architects, citizens, whoever. There's a bunch of people there. And here was the question that they asked. Why Montgomery County? Second question, why not Harris County? That was the question. Why Montgomery County? To a person, I was so pleased. Stable government, stable government, stable government. To a person. We are pro-small business. We understand how this all works. You have constant upheaval and turnover and activities going on in Harris County. I don't know how they operate that way. And I think it starts with leadership. It starts right at the top. And people need to know that you are committed to this concept that you cannot have a healthy community without a healthy economy. And if you're going to have a healthy economy, the government must be in favor of seeing business, the right kind of business, be in the community and benefit the community and be stable in doing so. And without that, you're not going to have a strong, independent, Republican form of government. Can't have it. And we have that in Montgomery County. And the instability in Harris County that we have seen over the last few years, you can't turn, I mean, we have crime in Montgomery County. I'm not saying that we don't. But the incidence per capita is so much different than what you see in Harris County. And it does have to do with bail reform, but more than that, it has to do with a looseness or a lack of prevention of, or the lack of creating an environment of deterrence. You have to have an environment of deterrence for people to stay safe, to believe they're safe. They will come to a place where they believe they're safe. We have increased our law enforcement exponentially over the last 7 years.
We're having an issue in Fort Bend where law enforcement doesn't want to work in Fort Bend County. You're probably having the opposite. They're probably sending their applications up to you guys.
Part of the deal is the pay parity. We matched Harris County's deal for pay, and so because with all the vacancies that they have down in the city of Houston and Harris County, man, we don't want to lose any of our good people to that. So we just ponied up the money, and we still were able to do the bond without increasing the rate. It was unbelievable. The resources are there if we've got such good people just working at this so hard. But you have to have an environment of deterrence, and they do not have that in Harris County. And if you're going to have an environment of deterrence, that criminal must believe that if he is caught, he is going to be punished. That is essential. We catch you, you're going to pay. That's the first thing. It's essential. And the second thing is the punishment has got to fit the crime. Well, what does that mean? That guy is going to make a value judgment. If I get caught, is the potential for reward greater that I'm willing to take that chance if I get caught? And we don't want that to happen. So there has to be a balance in terms of punishment and reward. And the other element is that you must execute these things judiciously and quickly. You can't have your DA constantly throwing cases out just because you're overloaded. You can't have that. And that starts at the top and with an understanding that they know they're going to get away with this. If you had environment of deterrence, most of this would go away. And you don't have it in Harris County. They're working on it. And God love Mayor Whitmire, what he's trying to do. I got to tell you, in the county government, it's a major problem.
Well, I think that they're implementing bail reform in Harris County, and that is the issue, But what is the state of crime in Montgomery County? Is there any overflow from Harris County into Montgomery County?
Yes. Let me give you an example. And here's the difference. My deputy constable and my chief of staff were in the deputy constable's vehicle. They were coming back from Harris County. They crossed over into Montgomery County. And they saw these people, 2 guys in this car. They were swerving in the car. So let's pull them over. They pulled them over. Sure enough, Both of them had warrants for their arrest. They stuck handcuffs on them, stuck them in the back seat, Chris. My deputy constable turns around, or they were listening to what they were saying in the back, and the one gentleman says to the one, "Don't worry, we'll be out of here in 2 hours." My deputy constable turns around and says to him, "If you were 600 yards south of here, that'd be the case. This is Montgomery County. You're going to jail." And they flipped out. Then we had another incident, probably a week later, this stolen car, Ryan Gable. Constable Gable, his guys picked him up at the border, right there going into Harris County. Right before they went in, first question the guy asked, stolen car, "What county am I in?" And they told him Montgomery County. To the constable's testimony, the guy, he flipped out, started tears, everything. He knew he was going to pay the price. He was going to jail. You can do that, but you have to be committed to it, and you have to have a district attorney who is committing to take the charges and to prosecuting, and we have that. And then you have to have judges who will work them through the system judiciously, quickly. Let's get on down the road. And you got to have guys show up for work. You know, our judges are I believe they are the finest in the state. They show up every day, they get through their dockets, we call them rocket dockets, and they get these things done, they get people on their way. And it's a constant push to make sure that we have that culture of deterrence. And this is what people want. They feel safe. And if they don't feel safe, they don't want to live there. So that's kind of where we're at.
That's good. I mean, I have to think that the people of Montgomery County feel safe because I think that the district attorney is the central figure
That's right.
in all of that. And if you don't have a DA that's playing Soros-style politics, you're probably safe.
That won't happen in Montgomery County.
So, okay, tell me about that. Like, how conservative is Montgomery County?
Well, we are the reddest. We've been looked at the data. We're the reddest county in the state of Texas, which is the reddest state in the country. So what does that tell you? That tells you we are extremely Republican. And because we believe in basic principles, we believe in the sanctity of life, we believe in free enterprise, we believe in small government. Well, I'm not interested. I made a commitment in my contract with Montgomery County that I would never raise taxes above population plus inflation. Do you know we've never gone there? Never. We've never been to population plus inflation. Otherwise, we'd have a gazillion dollars. But we're growing rapidly, but we're managing that growth. And I got to be honest with you, it's painful on 4:30 in the afternoon at I-45 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon at I-45 and 1488, and just sitting there and just waiting. And I remind people, just remember how it was during COVID. But I'm going to tell you, we were the last to close, and we were the first to open in our whole area, and we launched when everybody else was stagnating. And that's another reason why so many people came.
All right, I want to talk about COVID in a second, but before that, I want to know about the billboard. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yes. So after this took place, this individual that we caught, which county am I in? And we were in Montgomery County, and it was on the tail end of also when my deputy constable told the other guy, if you're 600 yards back that way, it'd be a different story. You're going to jail. I got contacted by a friend of ours up at Lake Conroe and said, you got to put something like that on a billboard. So we really started thinking about that. And I went ahead and I put on the billboard this, criminals. And I mean, if you come over I-45 right now, we've moved it down a little ways, but originally it was right there, right by the Lexus store, in between this huge Grace Church and Lexus store, a 24/7 lighted billboard, and it's the first thing you see when you come over, and it says criminals. This is Montgomery County. We fund law enforcement. We prosecute. County Judge Mark Keough. Now, I'm not the one who does the prosecuting. I don't operate in the judicial end of this, but I am the voice. I am the mouthpiece for Montgomery County. And as I believe the people's judge, I've got to defend them and take care of them. That's what I do, and I do it to the best of my ability, and that's part of it right there.
I mean, we have our counties burning down because DAs won't implement the law. Judges are doing the bail reform. Criminals are getting out, and I know it's slipping over into Montgomery County. It cannot be. So when you take these measures, I have to think the people of Montgomery respect that.
Sure. We just increased the law enforcement to the Woodlands. because the Woodlands is closest, and I-45 is the main corridor right in there. And so, we're very sensitive to this, and we increase law enforcement, which is mind-boggling expensive, but we have to do it. And as we grow, this is just part of the price, but we're able to do this. We're able to keep it within reason for the people, and it can be done if you choose to do it. It's easy to become sloppy in your economics. That's what many of these counties and cities do. They're just sloppy. They don't care. Nobody says anything. And even though people push back, it's like, you said what? Taxes are too high? How can you say that? Are you kidding me? There is not. We all hate taxes. We got to have taxes. We're going to have taxation in order to pay for these things. But you don't have to have it in such an exorbitant way that we are constantly pricing people out of their houses. That's just wrong. The people that built the community come to a place where now they can't afford their house. And in the state of Texas, you don't ever own your house. You don't pay your taxes, they can take it, even if it's paid off.
Well, and as a moral, just on a moral stance, taxing property, taxing a person's home is immoral. And I'm not saying that I don't expect you to change the foundations of our economy in a day, right?
I got you, sure.
But I'm just saying I'd like to see, like it's like we're in a cruise liner, and I'd like to see it start to turn the other direction. Tax bubblegum, tax alcohol, tax other items, but a person's home should be off limits, in my opinion. So any measure that takes that pain away from us needs to be celebrated. That's a big deal. I can't believe people don't know about it.
What's interesting is kudos to Dan Patrick, because he has recently come up with a tax program that given your school taxes at some point, they will begin to decrease, and you'll, over a period of time, won't have to pay for the school anymore, especially in light of now you're out of the house, you're retired, the kids are gone, you've paid your taxes, and here we are still paying for all this school tax and these various other taxes that we do. The difficulty is people call my office thinking we're the ones that are doing the taxation. I got news for you. We're about 18% of the total tax base of the county, because you got the hospital district, you got the college district, you got the school districts. All those are taxing entities. Plus you got MUD districts, municipal utility districts, road districts. Those are all taxing entities, plus fire departments and the rest. So.
One of the things that Montgomery County is known for is its very unique and rare, I would say, resistance to the Wuhan flu lockdowns, the COVID lockdowns. It was quite a remarkable time, 2020, yep. Right? And nearly every local government, Fort Bend County, Harris County, they saw it as an opportunity to put us in a Joseph Stalin's type of totalitarian lockdown. And all of the pressure from the corporations and every other group was on these county officials, and most of them went with it, and they knew they would be rewarded. Most of them went against the people and the rights of the people, but Montgomery County swam upstream, right, and pushed back in the spirit of 1836, in the spirit of Texas. Montgomery County pushed back. And that is quite remarkable. And you were the county judge during that time, is that right?
That's correct. First round, I was a year and 3 months into my first tenure as a county judge.
Let's just talk about the pressure that you were under. You were the one sticking your head out when all others were going with the Wuhan. I can't imagine the amount of pressure, possibly threats that were made to you. Sure. But let's just talk about the political pressure that was being placed on you for being the one of the few that stood up against the machine.
It was mind-boggling, the amount of pressure that was on us from other municipalities, from people within the county, from the governor's office, the state of Texas, but I'm pretty basic, and I think I'm a fairly reasonable guy. I keep hearing about this virus. I keep hearing how bad it is, and I don't see any kind of body count. And so I'm watching, where are the bodies? What's going on? When I really started looking at it, and I noticed that we had X amount, 1,000 people reported had the disease, and only 4 to 5% were in the hospital. And at that time I saw those numbers. There wasn't anybody in any intubator. And as I thought about that, I thought, something's not right here. This is just not right. I'm also the chairman of the health district, so I'm able to look at epidemiology, and I'm able to look at we look at disease transfer and the transmission of disease through the culture. And I have to tell you, it was interesting that during that time, mysteriously, the statistics on flu disappeared, and many of the same characteristics of the Wuhan virus are the same as the flu. And you have people with comorbidities, whether it was the flu or Wuhan, they weren't going to survive either way. But that being said, we stayed closed, or we stayed open for a long time, and eventually I'm driving back from Harris County. I drive by Gallery Furniture, Mattress Mac, one of my heroes, and he's closed. And I called my chief of staff. I said, Jason, I said, this is a problem. I'm not sure what we can do. Now think about this. Ron DeSantis, decidedly the most conservative governor in the country, closed his government. Governor Abbott closed our government. Trump closed his government. You got a hospital ship in New York. You got a hospital ship outside of San Francisco. And then you got Ford Motor Company shut down under the War Powers Act to produce intubators because there was going to be a shortage. And I'm putting all this together in my brain, and I've got to sit down with my people and decide what we're going to do. And I said, maybe we can save some lives. I don't know, but I can tell you I'm on I-45 at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and it is a ghost town. It was surreal. So we ended up going back. I sat in a room. I've got great advisors. Our district attorney, our county attorney, these guys are wise guys. My chief of staff, the commissioners, we were able to all get together under emergency issues so there wouldn't be an open meetings violation by us making an emergency decision. And Chris, I sat in that room and I looked at all of them, and I've never done anything like this before. Nobody has. Nobody has. And I'm looking at them, and as they're looking at me, I said, concerning closing, are you all expecting me to make this decision? To a person, they all shook their heads. Okay, stay right here. I'll be back in 20 minutes. Half hour later, I came back, we had an order written, and we closed the county. I hated doing it. I even put a curfew in place. But at the same time, we closed the county, and I watched the numbers. On any given day, 4 to 5% of the total number was in the hospital. And like I said before, nobody was even on intubators at this time. And so I watched this. Remember how they told us you had to flatten the curve? Took about 17 days? At the 17-day mark, I've just determined, and I had began to understand some things. You can't have a healthy community without a healthy economy. Period. The government should never be involved in choosing winners and losers, essential and non-essential business. Pure nonsense. We are a republic. That should never happen. And God created us for a community, and isolating people in their homes, not being able to get out, and then doing contact tracing on them is absolutely against all of our conservative Republican, I mean as a republic, not necessarily a party, our Republican ways as a society, as a people. And so I just came out at the end of that 17th, I said, this is going to end. Can't have a healthy community without a healthy economy. We are opening back up. Then I began and went into a huge shooting match with the governor of the state of Texas. And I'm not sure, without going into all the details of all that, but I can tell you that was painful. And because the slowness in which they decided, yeah, we are going to start this process of opening, I challenged that all along the whole way. And really, what it came down to in the final was, look, we're just going to stand our ground. This is what we're going to do, and we did, and we were the first to open. One of the things.
First in the state, or first in just the area?
First in our area. I'm not sure about the rest of the state. Some of them did. There was a few of them that didn't close at all, but north or whatever. But I have to tell you, we came out in our area and came out swinging pretty hard. Just previous to that, the governor had come out with a mandate where one of his orders was you can't meet in groups of 12 or more unless you get permission from the county judge. Now recognize in this kind of emergency situation, it's the president, the governor, the county judge. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And they came out with this order, nobody can meet in groups of 12 or more unless they have the permission of the county judge. I thought that's easy. I came out with an order. Anybody who wants to meet in groups of 12 or more, this now authorizes you to do that. It was unbelievable. Within a few weeks, we had the Catfish Festival. When everybody was shut down, we had 7,000 people at it. And to the best of my knowledge, Maybe some people got sick, but man, people
Might have been bad catfish.
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable. And we just, and I think that's one of the reasons people saw the freedom that was happening on this side of the San Jacinto and, or Spring Creek, if you will, on this side of Spring Creek. That's south of the border. This is north of the border. This is where we are free, where we will never have mask mandates, where we will never have any type of mandate that has to do with the vaccines or anything like that nonsense. And that's Texas, that's America, that's our history. And we abandon all that because we've become so afraid. These politicians and these individuals put this fear into us. No. You have to have a government that says, no, we're not going to tolerate that. I faded lots of heat. I faded heat within the county. We had some death threats.
Well, the older elderly community, they were very susceptible to the hysteria propaganda. There was certainly a virus that was going around. It was the politics behind this sudden and mysterious virus that arrives on our shore from a far off place in the most pivotal election year in mankind's history, where the left wants mail-in ballots, and all of a sudden this virus supports that whole initiative to get us to mail in ballots. Don't go to the ballots, mail it in. Don't go to the elections, mail it in. It's suspicious, incredibly suspicious. But our elderly populations weren't thinking any of that because they were the most vulnerable, and
Sure.
there was something out there. And the hospitals weren't really here to help. That's a whole nother conversation. But, so yeah, I can imagine that your elderly were in a difficult spot.
Well, they were, and that's because most elderly have some form of comorbidity. You know what a comorbidity is? They have some type
Right.
of health issue that something else can trigger it. My mother had multiple myeloma cancer, but she didn't die from that. She died from pneumonia. Okay,
I
if
got
that
you.
was
Mhm.
today, that she'd have died from COVID.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? There was so much of that, and the idea, just the flu in general, kills tens of thousands of people a year. And yet it was mysterious to me as I remember going back and looking at our epidemiology reports and transmittable diseases that we go through in the health district. As I looked at that and I'm talking to our epidemiologists, what happened to the flu? It kind of all got tied in together. And so, again, I believe COVID is a real deal. It's a real deal. It is really out there. But to the extent that it was responsible for all the things that was is not a chance.
Oh man, yeah, I would say that you can't. The enemy has a say in all battles, right? And so, the idea that you could not respond in any way, shape, or form, you had to do something. So you did it in the most limited fashion, with the impetus to get back an open
right.
society back in the fastest way possible, the fastest fashion possible. But let's talk about the governor. I mean, because he was doing that in the beginning too. He was also on a fast track to push this thing to the side. But then all of a sudden, somebody got to that guy, and he all of a sudden became, very, I would say that he went the other way. That he sort of became somewhat totalitarian. He didn't really want to open things up so quick. But I mean, what about your interactions with the governor? He was putting pressure on you as well.
Well, yeah, of course, and just the government in general was certainly putting pressure on us, and it was my experience during that time that the governor would come out with an order. He had all these executive orders, and he would come out with this order that would say one thing, but then he would verbally say things on TV. And so we tracked very closely what he said against what he had written. Let me give you a perfect example. There was an order that came out, and it was kind of towards when this all was coming to a head. And it said, quote, citizens should stay away from 51% bars, from tattoo parlors, and from hair salons. It didn't say stay away. It didn't say they were non-essential. It said people should just stay away from these. And I think the motivation was there is that they could spread this communicable disease. At the same time, it was said publicly by the governor that these are non-essential businesses and they're going to be closed. So as soon as I saw the discrepancy, I challenged the governor on that, went public on it and challenged him and told our county that we're not closing until this gets straightened out. What is the interpretation of should? Anytime you're doing legislative activity, you got two words. You shall or you may. Shall means you are going to close. May means you may close if you want, but you don't have to. But citizens should stay away has nothing to do with legislative orders. And yet the governor came out with that, and so I could not accept that. And I got with our sheriff's office, I got with our district attorney. I said, this does not tell us that we have to be closed. I'm not closing these. I need you guys to stand with me, of which they did. When the governor got that, he, to his credit, he was trying. He was caught in a very difficult place. But I remember seeing it on Channel 2 or one of these stations. I saw it on TV myself, where he said, I know Mark Keough. He served in the House of Representatives. I've worked with him. He's a good guy, and I'm going to check into this interpretation and see if what he's saying is right. That was, I think, a Tuesday, maybe a Wednesday. By the time Thursday comes around, this order is going into place to shut all these things down on Friday, and we've not heard anything from the governor. And I get a telephone call from Ken Paxton, the Attorney General. And he said, Mark, what do you want us to do? I said, the governor needs to throw me some help. He needs to throw me a bone, Ken. I'm not going to close under this. And so here was the bone that they threw us. Governor went around me, and the TABC, they went right to the sheriff's office and to the district attorney's office and said, this is our interpretation. These are to be closed. I went on public and I said, kudos to the governor. He did respond. So I'm not telling you can stay open. Just be careful. At that same time, Shelley Luther in the Dallas-Fort Worth area up there in Collin, I think it was Collin County, but anyway, it was up there.
Yeah, right.
And she got busted for opening up her hair salon, and what they were going to let her off, but she refused to apologize to the judge. He put her in jail because she wouldn't close her hair salon. Well, that went crazy in the conservative community. Dan Patrick even ponied up the money to get her out of bail. Now and get her out. Meanwhile, my chief of staff, one of our legislators, Steve Toth, and some other people, they went to hair salons and got a haircut anyway. So now we're sideways with our own district attorney because he's got an order to support the governor. Well, when Shelley Luther comes out with this situation, and this happens with her, governor comes out with a new order. Any of our orders, you cannot detain or arrest somebody on any of these executive orders.
So he makes it benign.
Shortly after that, though, in order to keep the mask mandate in place in public places, you are going to be given a warning first, and if you don't heed the warning and you get caught a second time, you're going to have a $200 fine. Well, wait a second. How are we going to give a fine? How are we going to give a warning if you've just taken away the ability to detain or arrest? And that's when the sheriffs around the state of Texas, the DAs just said, look, enough's enough. And things began to start changing. And since that time, kudos to the governor, man. He's come on strong with the strong conservative principles, which he's always been. I've worked with him. He's a conservative guy. He's a good businessman, very pragmatic, but he's a great businessman. He's done wonders for us.
Yes, it's great. It's an incredible story.
I mean, we could go on and on.
Well, no, I mean, when that happened, I was playing a pretty big part in Fort Bend County, challenging deputy sheriffs across the county who wanted to put their barrel chest in my face and tell me to put my mask on. My whole point was, is that a law? No. Okay, well, then what are you doing?
That's right. That's what I had people tell me we have to have a mask mandate. It's unconstitutional.
I had a county sheriff, a deputy, threaten to assault me if I wouldn't put that mask on. And I didn't have a full understanding of the law, but essentially that would have been assault. Mm-hmm.
I went into a McDonald's one day. I'm coming back from off of 99. I'm headed to my home. I stop into this McDonald's. There is a manager behind the counter, farther away in this social distancing, right? Mm-hmm. He was way on the other side of the counter, and I walked in. He said, you have to wear a mask. I said, beg your pardon? Why do I have to wear a mask? There's nobody here. This is how indoctrinated they become. Well, because this is our policy. You have to wear a mask. But I'm within 6 feet away from you. Why do I have to wear a mask? Well, I can't serve you unless you do. I just said, adios, have a nice day, and walked out. That's kind of nonsense that was going on.
Now, you were working with businesses who were calling you and saying, this is going to kill me if you shut me down. And you were helping them to become categorized as essential.
That's right.
Tell us about that.
Well, it was a function of car dealerships, for instance. I got a telephone call, a very prominent car dealership, a distributor for a major manufacturer that was getting ready to close some of their stores in Montgomery County. And they called me and wanted to talk to me about this. I said, let me ask you a question. If you have a first responder that drives a vehicle that you sell, he works on his own cars and needs parts, and he needs his vehicle to get to work, to respond to crisis, how is he going to get there and get a part if you're closed?
Yeah.
You are an essential business, and so major businesses opened as a result of me saying, you're essential. And once I said that, nobody ever challenged me. Great story. Great little gal calls me about 11:30 at night, crying on the telephone. I've got a mobile grooming business, and I got to tell you, they've just told me I was non-essential. This is my living. How am I going to survive? Tell me about your business. I go to the house. They bring the dog out. We have a hook in the ground. They tie the dog to the hook. I walk out. I get the dog. We stay away from the people. This is when we're all buying into keeping away from each other. And I bring the dog in, I clean it, and then I take it back out. They leave a check there, and they come pick up their dog. I said, "Do you think you sell products in your mobile business?" Well, yeah. Sell food, yeah. Do you sell like products to keep animals clean, the house clean, that sort of thing? Oh, yeah. Do all that. Do you think it's important if you're going to have an animal in the house that it's sanitary? Yes. Well, if that's the case, you just became an essential business, and if anybody gives you a hard time, you tell them to call me. She became an essential business. I took my dog to a groomer about 2 years ago, and I walked in, and this lady is behind the grooming counter. And she says to me, do you remember me? I said, well, I'm not sure. She says, you are the one I talked to on the telephone that kept my grooming business open. Here's where I'm at today. I can't tell you, Chris, how many people, business, they remember. I'm out campaigning right now, and so I've got my sign. I'm hanging it on fences. There's a CrossFit group that's up on 1488. And I went and I asked these people, and ideologically, I don't know where they stand on stuff, but they know that we're very Republican. My sign says Republican across the top. And the lady said to me, I said, can I put my sign and can I hang it on your fence? She said, you're the one who kept us open during COVID, right? Yes. It's because of you. My business was saved. Hang your sign on my fence. That was in the last election. She said the same thing to me a few weeks ago when I hung the same sign up again this time that's coming up in the spring. I hear this all the time from people, that we kept their businesses open and we saved. I've had people, it's remarkable. I don't expect anything from anybody. I don't. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is my job as the county judge. I go into a restaurant and they'll come to me, and next thing I know, they're giving me a free dessert. I said, look, please don't do that. No, my manager wanted you to have this because of what you did during COVID. You kept us open. It's amazing. You can't make this stuff up. It's incredible.
So while you were working with small companies to help them survive the Wuhan flu, you had big, I want to call them big box companies, larger companies calling you, pressuring you to shut things down. Is that right?
Sure did.
Okay, tell us about that.
Well, I had one situation happen, and my wife and I love this grocery store. We shop there all the time. And the owners of the companies, I think, are good guys. But they had a CEO at this time, and it's HEB. The CEO of HEB called me on the telephone right after this all came out, and they're wanting us to close and determining what's essential and not essential, and said that we should close Montgomery County. And my question to him was, what in the world are you, a CEO of HEB, calling me about closing the county? Because we need to keep our business open because we're a large company. Other small businesses, if they remain open, the chance of the transmission of disease becomes greater and it'll spread to our people. I said, it's pure nonsense. But we got that kind of pressure.
He has the cash to survive it.
And so, of course, the big companies absolutely do.
So that was a power play. How much business did the big companies gobble up because the small producers were put out of business?
There's no telling really how much, but, there are businesses that didn't come back. But remember, we were closed 17 days, and we still lost businesses in just a 2-week period. Some of these guys are operating just by the skin of their teeth. They're barely making it. And yet they are the fabric of our whole culture.
Okay, there was something else that your county was known for during that time, which was monoclonal infusion. And
That's
I think
right.
even
Monoclonal infusion, yes.
you received that treatment. Is
That's
that
right.
correct? What is
Yeah.
that, and what did you do up there in Montgomery County?
Well, in response to all of the vaccinations, a person could, instead of doing the vaccination, they could get what's called a monoclonal infusion. And they had developed this drug so that while we were in if you had it, they would do an injection process. We opened up a clinic across from Herman Hospital, right there in Pinecroft in the Woodlands. And it was a hospital that had been closed, and we opened it up, Montgomery County did, and we began distributing this monoclonal infusion. We saw they were getting fixed so quickly, so that by the time I had gotten COVID the second time, first time was totally nondescript, if you will. It was no evidence at all, not even in temperature, but I still had it, which they tested me. Second time, I was really sick, and they sent the monoclonal infusion people out to my home to help me. And we started doing that with everybody, just sending them out to the homes. And sure enough, they infused, this was on a Friday. By the late Saturday afternoon, it was like I was feeling awesome. Unbelievable. I had one gentleman come up to me not too long ago at a youth conference in the Woodlands. And he told me, I don't know if you remember this, but you sent the monoclonal infusion to my home. It's an older guy. You saved my life. I couldn't believe it. It was like unbelievable. That's what people in this position that I have. This is what our lives should be about: is enhancing the lives of people and helping people anytime they can, and speaking up for the people when big government won't do it.
That's amazing, man. I can only say, I would say everything so far I've heard you did right. I mean, our county and Fort Bend County would never have done that because they were selling vaccines.
That's right.
Fort Bend County was the biggest. They are the biggest drug pushers in the state of Texas. They had so many people jacked up on vaccines in Fort Bend. They would never have done that. But you were keeping people out of the hospitals. You were keeping people away from these vaccines that have injuries of epic proportions. You were putting
We still distributed. We distributed the vaccines. And we had 12 lanes over at Wood Forest Stadium where they were just coming through left and right.
Yeah, but you weren't actively promoting it.
We did not promote it.
Fort Bend was running with it, man.
We gave them a choice. It's a no-brainer. You have a choice. We're not making you do this.
Yeah,
we are not going to make
taking
anybody
a
do this.
position on
That's
a
right.
product.
That's right.
Which is what a county government should be doing. But
right.
Fort Bend, you could just, they're a pharmaceutical company down there. So there was something else that you did with regard to election integrity and requiring a manual hand count done at the local level.
Right.
Do I understand this correctly?
Yes.
You go against the establishment in every way, shape, and form.
No, but I don't.
I'm saying that as a compliment.
I know. The true establishment is our founding fathers.
Thank you very much. Mm-hmm.
And the freedoms that we have been guaranteed by our Constitution.
Yep.
And Texas has a commitment to the U.S. Constitution. Let me remind you, the first article in our articles in the Constitution, Texas is a free and independent state, subject only to the Constitution of the United States. And the maintenance of our free institutions and the perpetuity of the whole Union depend upon the preservation of the right to local self-government.
Yeah.
Not federal government, local self-government, unimpaired to all the states. I take that serious. So that all government is local, first of all. We believe it's federal. We talk so much about federal stuff that we cannot change anything. I was in the House of Representatives, Chris. I would work on a bill for 2 years to have it vetoed by the governor. And once I did get it in, it had to be approved by 180 other people besides me. In my commissioner's court, my commissioners and I make decisions for our county every 2 weeks that go into place today. All government is local. And anybody who puts their head in the sand on local government has lost their minds. You can't just focus on what you can change. You can have an impact on local government. You really think you're going to make changes on anything in Washington? We sit there, we watch TV, we get mad, we throw our shoes at the TV. We have our heroes that scream and yell, and while they're screaming and yelling, getting nothing done, they're just alienating both sides, pushing each other apart. Local government is where it's at. That's why I'm here where I'm at right now. This is what I do.
So tell us about
as the people's judge, this is what we do.
Tell us about the vote count, what you did there in Fort Bend. I mean, in Montgomery County.
We in terms of so what we did was we had a number of people There are well-meaning conservative groups that question everything all the time. I get it. And you know what? My attitude is you ask all the questions that you want. My chief of staff and my people will tell you this. You can bring criticism to me. If you want to sit down and talk with me, I will talk with you. So this whole group of very conservative right people, they call a meeting where they wanted to get together and talk about our vote issue and about possible integrity problems in our voting process. Okay, so we get everybody together. We ended up, long story short, they give me a notebook filled with things. And I said, well, I want to have a workshop on this. I understand in a workshop, we can't make a decision. We can't vote. There doesn't have to be a quorum. We're not going to have a quorum. It's a workshop. We can just talk about this stuff. So sure enough, we did. And they brought me all these various things, and I went and I studied them and talked about our Hart Intercivic voting machines were authorized by the Hart Intercivic voting people, so there couldn't be integrity there. Well, I did a little research on that. That wasn't the case. The people who authorized the machines were the Attorney General for the state of Texas, Secretary of State, had nothing to do with Hart Intercivic. They did not know that, but they believed what they'd been told. So I sat there with that group of people and just listened and talked them through each of these things for probably 2.5 to 3 hours. By the time we were all done, couldn't make a decision on what we were going to do, changing machines or whatever, because we'd already made that agreement. You can't do that in a workshop. It's some commission for the commissioner's court. But we went ahead, we went through that, and after we came out of it, my deputy chief of staff came up with an idea. Right now, they want us to do a manual count on certain races in any election. That was already mandatory. We contacted Secretary of State and said we'd like to add 3 to that and make it a total count. They loved the idea so much they made it mandatory for the whole state. We were getting telephone calls. They were so mad at us for getting this implemented. But we were able to demonstrate by that there is credibility with the accountability that we have put into the system through our own count, as well as what the state has done. Our voting machines work, and we have election integrity in Montgomery County. Not like Harris County, when they ran out of voting paper in the most conservative communities. Can you even imagine? Can you imagine the crust? To be able to pull that off and people to take that seriously was unbelievable. And it just so happened that it was during the election of the county judge down there. Interesting.
Mark, it's been an incredible hour, and I appreciate your time. But you're not off the hook yet.
Okay.
I have to ask you, there is a catfish festival in Montgomery County?
Yes, there is. And there's also a lobster fest. And these activities draw thousands of people.
Wow.
So interesting. We do it every year. And the governor came out with a mandate during COVID that said nobody can meet in groups of 12 or more without the permission of the county judge. Like I said before, remember, here's the chain of command during this event. From the president to the governors to the county judge or county administrator. So I'm right under the governor, who's right under the president. And so he comes out with this mandate. Nobody can meet in groups of 12 or more unless they get my permission as the county judge. I immediately saw, well, that's easy. I'm going to come out with an order, my own executive order, that anybody who wants to meet in a group of 12 or more, you now have permission to do that. So you don't have to call me anymore and ask. A few weeks later, we had the Catfish Festival in Conroe. Everybody is closed across the day. We have 7,000 people show up to this deal. You know, people were wearing masks. Some weren't, the whole deal. But we had it. We went forward on it. We gave them permission according to the government. The irrationality of the whole thing was amazing. But that launched us so quickly in Montgomery County.
Well,
after
you
COVID.
have to seize your liberties. You have to seize your freedoms, or they will be taken from you. And what you were doing was you were expressing defiance, and you were essentially saying, you can drop whatever mandate you want on us. We will live in a free way. And that's really a statement.
Chris, let me tell you, one of the issues that I think people in the political realm, one of the problems that they have, is they find themselves in a situation where they want to get along with various groups or various political subdivisions, or they want to get along with governments in a certain way. But they forget. Governor did not elect me. The state representative, he maybe is in my district. He maybe elected me or contributed, but everybody else around the state did not. So who is my first loyalty? Who is it to be to? To the people. It's called representative government. And that's what we have got to stay with. And these county judges, these mayors are not gods. They are not kings. I remember calling out the governor in one situation that came up and said, I do not work for you, governor. I work for the people of Montgomery County. We're not going to do that. We can't do that. So that's my situation. Chris, one day I'm going to invite you to my funeral. We're all going to go one day, right? And I want you to make sure that on my gravestone, it says this, Mark Keough, county judge, the years I was county judge, quote, the people's judge. I'm serious about this stuff. I'm so serious about it that when I took this job, I cut my pay by 12%. Nobody else cut their pay. You know that since that time, in my contract with Montgomery County, I put this in writing. I am the only one out of 3,500 employees in 7 budget cycles who has not taken a raise or a cost of living increase. You know, I pay for my own gas in my car. I don't even get a company vehicle by choice. I love what I do. I love the people, and I'm able to do this, and so I do. And I would like for others to follow the example, and many have. So it's coming along.
Well, I certainly appreciate everything that you've done and your efforts during the Wuhan COVID. It's incredible. I think the fact that you're right up there on our northern border is a big statement, and I think that it sends a message to the people of Harris County the way things should be. So I appreciate the hour.
Chris, thanks so much.
Yeah.
And I would love to do this again when you have a chance, but it was so great to talk to you and to be able to talk about these things so openly and freely. And you didn't even make me wear one of these. Thank you.
Well, it's great to get finally get somebody in here from Montgomery County, so we're certainly appreciative of it. And thank you very much. And this is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show. Tune in next week for one more hot topic. Have a great week.
This is the Chris Heasley Show, coming to you from Radio DeBang, the North America's premier broadcasting network.